What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Just doing a little Steelers-Cardinals recap from today's loss, 24-10. Disappointing loss in general. Definitely not one that I saw coming. I thought the Steelers were going to handle business today. Didn't end up happening. Just honestly, a complete kind of no-show from the Steelers, if we're being completely honest. At home against a team that they're quite frankly better than on paper. But credit to Arizona, came out and played well. The Steelers got off to a really good start, and this one got off to a 3-0 lead, scored on their opening possession. Drive stalled out in the red zone, which is something that's kind of been a theme recently. They struggled in the red zone last week. That kind of led to the low point total, despite them gaining a bunch of yards, and then stalling out in the red zone early. In this game as well, holding, even beyond just kicking the field goal early, they had the 4th and goal stop. They get stopped, and then the Cardinals end up going 99 yards before the half. That was a huge turning point, I felt like, in the game. But just overall, I want to talk some positives, some negatives from the game, just like general thoughts. Also, injuries were a huge part of this one. Kenny Pickett leaves the game in the second quarter. I think that, he was seen in a boot on the sidelines. All these injuries that we're going to talk about really, even more important than usual because the Steelers play on Thursday. They have a really short week, so we'll see what the practice participation looks like for those guys and what the recovery looks like. But Pickett, really not much to go over with his performance today, just because we didn't really see very much of him. Some good, some bad. He hit the deep ball early to George Pickens, I think on his first or second pass of the game. Thought that they were going to get off to a good start, and then, kind of things stalled out, and then he gets hurt right before the half. Just one of the things that's kind of a little bit concerning to me on Twitter, I think people were taking this comment like one way or another, is this is really like the 4th or 5th time that he's left a game, and he's only started like 24 games. And that's not necessarily like questioning anything. Like some people are saying it's a toughness thing. I think Kenny's a tough dude. I just think in general, there has to be a little bit of a red flag coming up. When you got your quarterback that's leaving, 4 or 5 games early in the first, not even 2 years of his career, that's definitely concerning. He hasn't missed a ton of games, but when you're not able to, finish these games, it does take opportunities away from you to, kind of prove yourself, trying to figure out, is he the guy? Well, when he's not out there, that it makes that, that evaluation process a lot more difficult. So, but hopefully he's good. I was more concerned with his helmet. He took a little bit of a shot to the helmet, and then it looked like maybe his helmet bounced off the turf. I was concerned about another concussion because he's already had a couple of those. But luckily, it sounds like it's just an ankle issue. Landon Roberts left the game in this one. We'll talk about some of the inside linebacker issues with a groin. He didn't return. Sam Malo didn't return as well. That was definitely another key loss. He went out, I think, on the 4th-and-goal play that failed near the end zone. And then even Mika Fitzpatrick led this one. They said he broke his hand, then he came back to play the second half with a cast on. Salute to Mika. That's crazy. Good for him though. But yeah, just really banged up for the Steelers. Definitely something to monitor as they play again on Thursday against the Pats. Good news is, it's at home. I always think that the team that's at home on a short week like this is at an advantage. But just to some positives, some guys I thought played well. I thought the edge rushers played particularly well. It was unfortunate that they couldn't force the Cardinals into more like pure drop back situations because particularly early in the game, I thought they had Kyler a little bit uncomfortable in the pocket. A lot of tip balls at the line of scrimmage. Just he didn't really seem like totally comfortable until that like 99-yard drive. He made some really nice throws down the field, some of which didn't even show up in the box score stats. But I thought that, the edge rushers won the one-on-ones with the tackles whenever they got the chance. Highsmith and Watt were both good in run support. Highsmith, I know a lot has been made about his sack production, but I think the pressures have been there. I think we'll see some positive sack regression over the rest of the season. Had some really nice reps today on the outside. I thought Keanu Benton played pretty well. Some really, really nice reps just of him resetting the line of scrimmage, heavy hands, running his feet, both as a pass rusher and as a run defender. Really high on that dude. I know I talk about him probably more than anybody does, especially like on Twitter and stuff, but I'm just a really big fan of 95. I think he's going to be a really, really good player. Joey Porter Jr. had some good moments, some bad moments, just in terms of, the run game. I thought the run game started off really, really well in the first half. Like the offensive line was generating a ton of displacement, that they were opening up lanes. They were doing what they wanted to, whether it was running up the middle, running on the perimeter, their toss, their outside zone stuff. I thought all of it was really working. It slowed down a little bit in the second half, wasn't as consistent as it needed to be. But Warren and Harris both ran pretty hard today. So we'll have to go back and look at the film to see what happened. George Pickens had a really good game, just really limited opportunities, only had like 4 or 5 targets, but I think he caught, 4 balls, almost 100 yards, drew another defensive pass interference penalty. Of course, the big play, like I said, on that first drive of the game was nice. But just not consistent enough on offense, man. Like barely 300 yards of offense. A lot of that honestly came in garbage time. They had the late, touchdown drive, which is what it was. But the game's 24-3 at that point, midway, late through the fourth quarter. Didn't really matter. Just in terms of negatives, man, like I think you got to go back and kind of point I hate bringing up like coaching as like a huge point in these types of losses, because like, execution is always the number one thing, at least for me, in the way that I like to evaluate games. But like I said, I just felt like the Steelers kind of no-showed a little bit. Like they got punched in the mouth and never got back up. But just something that the coaching staff has harped a lot on recently has been like details. You've heard Eddie Faulkner, Mike Sullivan, the players talk about details, particularly on offense, but just the lack of attention to detail today was noteworthy. 9 penalties, like 80 penalty yards or something like that. They picked up penalties pre-snap, so they had multiple legal formation penalties. Deontay Johnson got a false start. They had to burn some timeouts because they couldn't get the right number of guys on the field. And then they had a 12-man on the field penalty after they took a timeout. Like, I don't even like, some of that stuff is like just bizarre to me that that all occurred in the same game. I think you have to look at the coaching staff at some point for some of those things, because this isn't the first time that this has happened this season. The Steelers have done a good job with penalties, but just the lack of attention to detail in some of these phases is concerning. And then just beyond that, the special team stuff, like just over the past like month, 4, 5, 6 weeks, has been concerning. They've had issues in the kick return game, defending kick returns, giving up a couple big ones. But then like today, Killebrew gets 3 penalties in one day. Like, I don't, like, you're a special teams player only, picking up 3 penalties, 2 of which resulted in 15 yards. Like in games with the Steelers, where their offense is not going to generate a ton of points, more often than not, like you just can't afford those penalties by your special team. So especially from a guy that's captain, just not what you want to see, man. And then just other stuff in terms of like negatives, things that just are infuriating to watch is, they're still having trouble snapping the football. Like Mason Cole's he's had a pretty disappointing season. He's played a little bit better lately. But man, it's really difficult to watch, the quarterback continuously having to do all these crazy motions in the backfield just to catch these snaps. Some are high, some are low, right, left, everywhere. Not even knowing what to expect back there. And then of course, he has it was a low snap, I think, on it might have been a zone read or something like that with Pickett and Harris. Pickett ends up having to keep it early in the game, and that causes a punt, right? And then the second half of the game, he has that low snap to Mitch. It's like at his ankles. He fumbles it. They get a short field and they go down and score a touchdown. So just those mental mistakes, the Steelers have done a really good job, not turning the football over. But when they turn the football over, it really sinks their chances to win, just because, like I said, they're not built, right now to put up a ton of points. So you have to minimize, your exposure to negative plays, things like that. They just didn't do it. So especially like fundamental stuff like 101, stuff like that. Like when you lose in that regard, it's always like really tough because, it's just really frustrating in my opinion. Just some other things. I thought Mel Walker had a tough day in coverage. We talked about it on the preview. You go back and listen. I probably sounded a little bullish on Trey McBride. I think he's a really good player. I don't know if he's the household name yet that he probably should be. I know some of the fantasy football community, I guess, is a big fan of him as well. But when I was watching the tape, I was really impressed. He gave the Steelers hell today. He had a touchdown call back, caught another one on the next play. Walker had some issues in coverage today. He also had a missed tackle. on Michael Carter in the hole. He misses the tackle. Carter gets an explosive run play. Those are always tough. But there's some context necessary too, because like Roberts goes down today. They're down to their fourth inside linebacker. The Steelers haven't been overwhelmingly just destroyed by injuries or anything like that. They've had some key guys miss time, right? Like Minka, Cam Hayward, but overall they've been relatively healthy. But man, just this inside linebacker predicament that they're in is it's brutal. I mean, you lose three guys that you all signed in free agency in a span of just a month, and you're relying on guys that you brought up from the practice squad, signed off the streets. It's going to take a toll on your defense. And I think, it was only a matter of time before, Walker or one of these other guys had a down performance, and that's what happened today. So hopefully he bounces back next week. I had previously thought that Walker had played pretty well over the past couple weeks. So such is life. We'll see what happens with that. Especially with Roberts, is he going to play Thursday? What's that situation look like? Who wears the dot? Who plays next to him? Is it Mark Robinson? Do they elevate a guy like Miles Jack, Blake Martinez, somebody like that? We'll have to see. Again, these next couple of days are going to be huge just in trying to find out like who's healthy enough to go on Thursday against the Pats. But yeah, like I said, man, just really disappointing performance overall. Last thing I probably had to say is just, Broderick. I thought he had a little bit of a rough go. He's had some issues, I felt like, in the past couple of weeks. Just in general, like true dropback situations. And the Steelers are definitely trying to like minimize his exposure with that. But it's one of those things where Broderick, he's still just kind of winning off athleticism right now. And he's obviously been, I think, a plus player in the run game. But just as a pass protector, you could just tell like he's still trying to like figure out what he's doing out there. So there's going to be some ugly losses. And I thought you saw that a little bit today. He allowed that the first quarterback hit on I guess it was the first drive of the game that ended up in a field goal. He got Kenny hit on the arm, and I think the ball kind of came out a little weird. But, such is life. That's just part of having a rookie tackle, man. I mean, the Cardinals, you can look on the other side of that. Paris Johnson Jr. had some rough reps today. He's had some rough reps this season. Just think in general, like, opposite tackles have a really hard time adjusting in pass protection at this level because edge rushers are just so freaking good. Even though the Cardinals don't really have like a household name over there, it's just a different game. So, but yeah, man, I just think really disappointing performance in general. Like I said, at home to just come out and just look really flat. The Cardinals scored 24 straight points. Credit to them. Like I said, McBride played really well. Kyler made enough throws, I guess. Connor played really well in the second half. Didn't really do much in the first half. They did a good job bottling up the run. I thought they were going to maybe even get the Cardinals into being a little more one-dimensional because I think Connor's first 6 or 8 carries or something like that went for single-digit yards. They did a good job bottling him up. But as the game wore on, he started to get into a rhythm and then just kind of grounded it out in the fourth quarter. But I will say this: it's a bad loss, and I don't want to sugarcoat it in any way. It's a bad loss. You guys are definitely right to be frustrated by it. If they were going to lose a game in this really easy stretch, the rest of the regular season, whatever, this is the one you wanted them to lose because it's against an NFC opponent. So that you can look at it that way. I don't know if you're a glass half full or half empty guy or gal. But that is one of the things that you look up any of the playoff predictors or probability sites or whatever like that. Even a win or a loss really wasn't going to have a ton of effect on the Steelers playoff percentages today, just because it was an NFC opponent. So they got a big one, obviously, with the Pats on Thursday. Again, health is going to be the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to over the next 48, 72 hours. Who's going to be good to go? It's always tough. Like when guys don't finish games on Sunday, it's tough for them to play on Thursday night. But we have seen instances where we've seen guys get back on the field. Even Kenny Pickett, I think he left the game early this year and then ended up playing on a short week. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know what you guys thought of the game. I know it's a frustrating one, but definitely sucks too. Because I really did think that this was going to be the day. The offense broke out just because it was a bad defense that they were going up against. I thought they had some momentum building off last week. Turns out I was definitely wrong. So such as life is what it is. But yeah, like the video for me, comment, let me know what you guys thought. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. I will try to have something for you guys maybe tomorrow or Tuesday in terms of like a film room video or something like that. Kind of just depends on my voice, as y'all can tell, or if you haven't watched the preview, still recovering, still under the weather. So trying to get you guys content out, but also trying to get myself back to somewhat 100% relatively soon as well. So I appreciate you guys, and I will holler at y'all next time.